Welcome back to Ask Dr. Vincent After Hours edition. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is a very special episode because I have a very surprising surprise for you. I am going to introduce my new co-host, soon to be my friend too. We are not yet working together, so perhaps I don't know whether that's better or just worse. And I'm going to introduce you to Christian's replacement. Not that he's replaceable if you ask him, but for lack of better introduction, please welcome my co-host Stephen.
Vincent, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, and really happy to support what is, it's how many episodes have you had now? It's been
We are on 17, 18 episodes.
wow. I feel like I'm late to the party, but I'm hoping that I can add some value and keep your listeners interested. Certainly, try and ask some questions that they might be dying to ask you directly. Of course, if you are listening and you have access to a computer, add some notes. We love to get feedback. Please drop us a line.
Yes, please. Shoot us a DM, slide into our DM, send us an email, or just comment on any of our socials. So thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me because I came from an academic stock. So this part of my day, this part of my week actually helps me to stay close to my roots when it comes to the science part because I love being an entrepreneur. I love selling products. However, at the core of what I'm doing, no pun intended or pun intended, I love the fact that knowledge is power. And I feel that by giving people knowledge, you're giving power back to them when it comes to having control about their health, well being. And I do believe that when people have the knowledge of choosing better, they will actually do that.
I love that you're so generous in what you're sharing, and I guess can you tell me a little bit about your background? I know 17, 18 episodes in, I'm sure some of your listeners know exactly who you are and what you've done, but maybe give me a 30-second. Who is Dr. Vincent?
So thank you. I haven't been asked that for a while, but let me just do my elevator pitch to you. So my name is Vincent. I came from a country called Indonesia. I came as an international student here to Australia. I initially only intended to study my food science and human nutrition degree and went back home and continue my dad's business actually. And my dad's business
Right.
was in electronics, things that I mean, he is so good at doing that business, and I'm really happy that he's so passionate about that. But I never actually felt passionate about what he does. I do I do get really passionate though when it comes to what we put into our body because my mom used to be a pastry chef. So growing up, I spent a lot of times in the kitchen, a lot of time helping her with her home bakery business. So I wanted to study more from the scientific perspective when it comes to food, not really just the
Yeah.
culinary. But naturally, when you learn about things that you put into your body, you're also curious, or at least I was curious about the impact, be it positive or negative, when it comes to our health and well being. I was so lucky because I was offered a project to help Australian apple farmers to make sure that the apples grown in Australia were not losing in terms of the competition with imported concentrate or imported fruit products from overseas.
Oh, wow. So, I guess how do you get started on that? How do you start an assessment on Apple products?
So this is a fun fact that I don't know a lot of people know, and I don't even know if you would believe me. But at the height of my research, I probably studied dozens, some hundreds of different types of apples in the form of whole fruit, sliced
Yep.
fruit products, fruit juices, apple sauces, to the point where at that time, if you cut or slice open any type of apples in the room where I was, I could tell you exactly what variety the apple was just
That's
from the
amazing.
smell. Because I used to hate it. I used to hate working with apples until I actually met the Apple Growers Association in Orange, And I used to hate orange too because I felt tricked. People told me that, Vincent, you're going to be working with apples from Orange. I thought it was like something that's quite funny because being not born here, I didn't know that Orange was the name of a place. I thought that, wow, we're gonna do. I love Harry Potter at the time. I thought we are gonna do some sorcery, magically turn oranges into apples. But I have to say that I I'm a very proud Australian, mainly because I work very, very closely with Australian apple farmers. I saw their passion and they made me discover my own passion. And I really believe that at the end of the day, they wholeheartedly intend and want to support people in Australia. And
Mm.
we share the same belief. And a lot of us do believe that an apple a day does keep the doctor away.
Wow. So that is quite a story. You've come from essentially butter and sugar to apples from orange, which I agree, being an Australian myself, it is kind of funny that I think the largest producer or one of the largest producers in Australia is actually a place called Orange. Usually in Australia, we name things after exactly what they are. I guess we didn't get it so right in that spot.
It was actually named after the nickname of one of the founding fathers of their city. So it's not because they were growing oranges.
Well, I think there's some alcohol out there as well, and a bunch of other things.
Basically, all the good stuff.
All the good stuff. Tell us more about all of that good stuff and what we should be focusing on. I think that as we started the year, we've all had the New Year's resolutions, most of which I think have already disappeared, and it's only halfway through.
No, Steve, it's not even 2 weeks yet.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe just my New Year's resolutions have already been lost. But tell us a little bit more about what we should be doing this year to make our health better. To focus on perhaps some of the foods and activities that we need to have a think about, and maybe help some of us New Year's resolutionists keep some of those resolutions throughout the year.
So I love that word resolutionist. I hope by the end of this podcast, you will consider yourself no longer a resolutionist, but a revolutionist, because I do believe fundamentally health and well-being start from the foundational aspect. And by training, I'm a biochemist when it comes to the relationship with health and our body. And 80% of human health conditions, issues, diseases, and illnesses can be traced to inflammation, especially at the cellular level.
Uh-huh.
So I put together a list of 6 things that we must change in 2026 for better health. The reason why I put in 2026 is because I feel that sometimes as a human being, we tend to wait and look for that one big sign that get us going, that get us
Yeah,
started, that turn that one day into day one. And what better way to start, New Year, other than making sure that you're looking after your body, you're looking after your mind, you're looking after your whole well-being. Because I've I I'm in two ways about this, Stephen. 50% of me feels that trend of New Year resolution, New Year, New You, is a little bit of a BS. But 50% of me also think that if we have a tool or something that help us to kickstart the health journey, why not embrace it, right?
yeah, absolutely. I know that obesity is a big problem in Australia, and in fact, I was reading only the other day that obesity has overtaken smoking as the leading risk factor for the disease burden in Australia, which is pretty scary. What sort of things can we start to think about, and what are your 6 steps? Let's go back to those 6 things and really try and grasp just 6 simple things that we can do.
I think you raise a very important question when it comes to obesity, because everything that has anything to do with weight, whether it's overweight or underweight, we're so obsessed with it. And I do believe that it is partly physiological and also partly psychological. And I think the only way that we can tackle the obesity or weight or overweight problem is by going back to the basic science that sure, it feels good to look at yourself when you are lean, muscly, or skinny, or whichever the ideal body type that you wish to be in. However, we need to shift the paradigm and the conversation that it's not first and foremost about vanity. It should be about health, and everything else comes next. And that's the reason why the first thing that I put on my list is that we need to stop treating movement as a punishment. I mean,
Mm.
as someone who, I don't know if you know the term FFK,
I don't. Tell me what FFK means.
former fat kid.
Ah,
As a former fat kid, I I was so conditioned that when you eat a piece of Tim Tam or a piece of candy bar or uh, an icicles. This is like I was so conditioned that oh wow, that is equivalent to 1 hour on the treadmill. That's equivalent to
mm,
like 200
yeah.
skippings, jumping rope. So I feel that I was not the only person who went through that sort of kind of period. And I love my mom, but my mom, you owe me a lifetime of therapy when it comes to my body image and weight. But
She was a pastry chef, though. Come on.
she was, and I really do believe that that's probably why she was like, I never knew at that time that, and I
Yeah.
probably not a lot of people know this that croissant or pastry was basically butter being encased with flour. So you're literally eating butter in the best form possible. So what I'm trying to say is that when I went to the gym, even sometimes now, when I go on my bike ride, when I walk, when I run, my brain, at least part of my brain, associate that as a debt that I have to pay
Mm,
because I
yeah.
have indulged the night before.
Yeah. So one croissant equals this much time on the treadmill, or this many weights, or this many laps around an oval.
That's correct. And that's the reason why a lot of us are so at first when it comes to exercising because we associate that and the society that we're in reinforce that association with a punishment, something that is not enjoyable.
Yeah. So you're taking away the enjoyment of that particular thing, that croissant or the almond croissants are my guilty pleasure, I have to admit, and you're replacing it with all this guilt that doesn't sound good for you.
Yes, so you take away the joy from eating the food that you love, but at the same time you also prevent yourself from feeling joy and happiness and that elevated amount of good mood from exercising, from sweating, from moving. So it's a double-edged sword when it comes to really ruining your association of exercise and being healthy. And I do believe that when we exercise, I used to not believe this, but when we exercise, when we move, when we sweat, our body experience that euphoric feeling. There's a reason why
Mm.
people who
Yeah.
run, people who move, they generally feel pretty healthy.
And they get addicted to it. That feeling they get addicted to, I
Yes,
guess.
it's a dopamine feedback. When the brain receives the amount of pleasure and joy from an activity, it starts associating that and it starts to tell you to do it more often, to do it more. Unfortunately, a lot of us, and myself included, for the longest time, almost like deprive ourselves from feeling the joy of movement because we associate exercising with
Mm.
punishment.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've heard that about 30% of Australians have gym memberships, and I'm certainly falling into that. I don't think I've been to the gym in the last 5 years. Perhaps I'm just spending the money. It's not making me any thinner, so perhaps I need to focus on that. But moving on to number two, what else can we do to improve our overall health?
Uh, you probably will come at me, and probably people who are listening too, because we all know how to sleep, right? Humans have been sleeping since day one. They walk this earth. However, not a lot of us think about sleep as something that actually not just restful, but restorative and rejuvenating our system. when we are asleep, it doesn't mean that our body shuts down and our body, just take a pause from all of the system.
Yeah, we don't turn off.
We don't turn it off. As a matter of fact, I mean, you can probably draw a better parable to this situation, Stephen, given your background in IT and computer and technology, that when you reboot a computer, when you allow the computer system to defragment the files and everything, those are actually important for the performance of the computer
Yeah.
when it is functioning.
Yeah, absolutely. Clearing the garbage, I guess,
Yes.
is one part of that for sure.
And we form memories when we are asleep. So we balance our hormone when we're asleep. The inflammation actually goes down when we're asleep. So all of these things that should happen when you are asleep probably don't happen when you have a bad night's sleep. And I think people are so obsessed with 6 to 8 hours or 8 to 10 hours,
So
depending on who
what
you.
what's the magic number? Well, is there a magic number?
I don't think there is a magic number because if we trace back, I really, really, as someone whose first language is not English, I love the root of a word, right?
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that I know what the root word for sleep. What I'm trying to say is that I love to trace an activity or something back to the roots. For example, humans have been around before the clock system, the timing system as you know it existed, right? Even the sundial, even telling time with the shadow of the sun. Before that, we already know whether it's daytime or whether it's nighttime. Even in animal kingdom, you have uh, animals who base their activity on sunlight, right? So what I think has really badly influencing our sleeping pattern is the introduction of artificial light, especially with our screens and devices that emits that blue lights. Because when our brain receives that blue light stimulation, it mimics the stimulation that we get from sun ray in the morning.
In the
So
morning.
it wakes us up. It really messes up with our circadian rhythm. So I don't have the answer to what is the magic number, and the science is not all in agreement when it comes to that. But what I know is that the magic number is less important than what your body feel as enough sleep. I'll
Mm.
give you an example. In certain cultures, siesta is a thing.
Yeah, yeah. We love a siesta.
We love a siesta. I mean, this is something that works really, really well for certain people in certain culture. There's a lot of evidence that points to increased amount of concentration, mental acuity,
Yep.
and productivity when
More accuracy.
when
all of
people
those.
take that 2 to 3 hours rest. And some people even have that short power nap, like if 10 minutes, 12 minutes, that helps them to rebalance and refocus. I have to say it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I feel that if I do that, it's a slippery slope. I might just take the whole afternoon off and I can't. So the magic answer to this question is that you need to listen to your body.
Mm.
And I do believe that what you form as a habit really influences what your body perceives as enough.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. When I was doing some reading for this topic, there are two things that I came across. One of them was about that 10, 12, 13-minute nap. And it seems that for a lot of people that it works for, they set an alarm for 13 minutes. And it should never be longer than that. So I guess listeners can go and do some of their own research and see what works for them, or if it even works for them.
So I have a question for you, Stephen,
Yeah.
because I feel that you're like onion. Like there's so as you peel back, you learn a lot more. Because
Don't let it go all in the one episode.
of course,
Yeah.
of course, that's what I'm getting at. I don't want to take away the the suspense every episode, because we want them to come back next episode, because I'm they're bored with me. I need to bring some excitement in the form of you. But what I wanted to ask you, Stephen, as someone who works across time zones,
Yeah.
how do you deal with that? Because even when you're physically not in the time zone that you're working at,
Mm.
you need to perform as if you were in that time zone because the rest of the office, the rest of your team are in the different time zone. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. Look, honestly, sometimes it's really tough. So working across 9 time zones is probably the largest number of time zones that I've done. And that's India through to the west coast of the US. And it really becomes an agreement that you have with the other person. So I had a team of people who were working for me, some in Singapore, some in Japan, some in the US. And they all knew what time it was for me. And they were very worried up front that the time was not going to be suitable. But what I did is I tended to time box when I was focused on a particular task or a particular individual, whether it was a one-on-one or whether we were talking to a customer, just to make the time not the issue. And the way that I manage that is I just break my day up. So I don't work an 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. day. I work in chunks. And so I'll do 3 hours here, 4 hours there, make sure I go for a walk around the block, make sure I have my power naps of 13 minutes. And they actually happen to work for me. But also, the most important thing, and I'll come back to it, is when talking to people in other time zones or working through other time zones, don't make the time zone the issue. Just make the engagement the issue. The fastest way that you can lose somebody that is talking to you from another country is by constantly bringing up how late or early it is at night. It's actually the same when you're traveling as well. I don't know if
I was about to say that. Yes.
So I've done something like 60 flights in the last 12 months. And the way that I get through those flights, and in Australia, pretty much everything is a 4-hour flight. You can't even get to the other side of Australia in 4 hours. So when flying to Singapore or Malaysia or the Philippines or Thailand or across to the US, when I get on the plane and sit down, I set my watch to the time zone that I'm going to arrive in, and I live the time zone from the very moment I get on the plane. And for me, that really works. And then if I'm doing really super long flights, say Sydney to Europe, I find a flotation tank or a sensory deprivation tank, or even just a park to go and sit in if that's not reasonable. But the float tanks I get a lot out of because you get that relaxation reset, and that's so important. You have to find a way to reset.
Thank you for sharing that, because I travel a lot too. Not as extensively as 60 flights. If you miss it, it's 60. That is impressive. But at the same time, I love what you said about don't make the issue, because our brain is very easily manipulated even by us. And I do believe that this is why sometimes people say that there's power in the spoken words. And I do believe that it's not really the magical or energy power. It's basically how you convince yourself. And by removing that worry, I think that's 50% of resolving the issues.
Yeah. Hopefully we've helped somebody already, Vincent.
Well, it does help me when it comes to not complaining about Chicago time. I'm so sorry, Charlie. I know you're in Chicago and you're probably listening too. But seriously, Mountain Time is the worst time zone in the US when it comes to our time here. Okay, I'm not going to get into it. We just talk about.
Let's keep moving.
Yeah. Number 3, this is my personal 2026 resolution. We need to stop outsourcing our food to factories. We need to be a lot more mindful when it comes to processed, especially ultra processed food. As a parent, I actually check myself, because sometimes in the name of being time poor, or in the name of, being a working parent, I outsource it to, chicken nuggets. I outsource it to frozen pizza. And I tell myself that, well, at least it's not US made, because as bad as our junk food here in Australia, I mean, if you go to the US, this is a whole different level of
sugar and butter, more sugar and butter,
and sodium, and hydrogenated oil, and probably 12 items that you can't even pronounce, even as a scientist. So I do believe that this is an important issue that we need to tackle, because for a lot of us, we blame ourselves when it comes to willpower. When was the last time you opened a pack of chips and stopped yourself and only eat the suggested serving size.
Well, the
Never.
chip packets are getting smaller. They're the same cost, but they are getting smaller. So maybe that's helping. But I feel like there are things that we should be replacing our snack time with, not chips and sugar and butter. Do you have any suggestions?
An apple. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. And not only that, apples are actually packed with nutrients that you probably you probably don't think are present in apples. You would think that a piece of protein cookies or protein bars
Mm.
would give you more nutrients compared to a piece of fruit. That's absolutely wrong because apples are packed with minerals, vitamins, antioxidants, and not only that, it helps to stabilize your sugar level, which
Mhm.
makes them perfect snacks. Because the signs of us craving food or being packaged, there are two reasons. The first one is our blood sugar level. If it dips a little bit, then it sends a signal to your brain to start feeling, you know, packaged or you want to graze.
Right.
To
That's that bottom of the stomach. I need something sort of feeling.
That's correct. But 50% of the time when you're feeling that feelings, you're actually thirsty. So apples are also
Mhm.
a source of hydration. When we are thirsty, when we feel hungry or peckish or we crave something in our mouth, 50% of the time we're actually thirsty. It's our brain trick to convince us to drink, because sometimes when it sends a signal to our brain, when our body is sending a signal to the brain that you're thirsty, we ignore it. It's not until it sends a signal that, oh, you're hungry, then you start munching something. And this is the reason why sometimes it's so hard to stop munching, because
Mm.
your brain starts to see the activities in your digestive system that it gets a little bit of water, but obviously there's only so much that it can extract from a pack of chips.
Yeah.
There's only so much that it can extract from a protein bar. So your body craves more, not more food, but more hydration, more water. So my trick for people who want to stop that kind of behavior is that whenever your brain tells you that you're hungry, try to drink a glass of water first.
Right. Fantastic. I know that there are probably some of our listeners out there who have been told that having an apple or having a sweet fruit is maybe bad for you. You're not getting fiber or something like that. Um, I guess though, from what you're saying, having that glass of water to try and quench that need, that feeling, and then maybe having an apple to reset the sugar levels, so that you're then feeling like you can then get through to dinner or get through to lunch. Is that a summary? Is there anything I'm missing?
Well, I think you summarized it pretty well, Stephen. But I also want to say that I am not a boring person. I know that this is your first episode with me, but for those of you who have been with me for all of the episodes, you know I'm not a boring person. That is 80% of the time. I do believe that we need to be good 80% of the time. But when it's someone's birthday in the office and then cutting
Mm.
open like really nice cake or
Yeah.
even just Woolly Smart chocolate mud cake, this is not the time to be a good person. This is not the time to
Thank
be
you.
to be,
I feel like you've given me permission. Thank you.
as long as it's within the 20% of the time, I feel that
Yeah.
you need to not feel guilty about that, because if you do, then it brings us back to point one. When you associate losing weight, exercising, being healthy as a punishment.
Yeah.
And I do believe that the reason why when we talk about food, so there is this funny story. So I was actually part of the team that helped to push the legislation in Australia for fortification in our cereals and juice when it comes to folate and B12. The reason why I brought this up is because whenever I did a presentation about methylation or B12 or folate or folic acid and all of this metabolic pathway in our body, a lot of times people don't have opinions or questions or being critical or being mean spirited. But whenever I talk about food, unhealthy food, healthy food, processed food, natural food, whole food, people have a lot of opinions. And I do believe that it is because when it comes to food, people have their own personal relationship with food.
Mm.
Food is at the center of all the cultures in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
And therefore, if all of those things are true, it is also true to say that food is not only nourishing our body physically, it also does a lot of thing, be it positive or negative,
Mm.
to our brain, to our psychology. So total deprivation of certain type of food, saying that I'm not gonna eat certain kind of food, or I'm gonna cut sugar, I'm gonna cut carbs from my life. I do think that in the long term, it's not very good for your mental well-being.
Yeah. And I think sharing food is actually really important as well. I love that you brought up the cultural side of food, and whether it's eating food from a homeland or whether it's eating the the grandmother's famous spaghetti, or it's just your favorite sneaky snack that you
That's why they call it
discovered.
comfort food.
It's comfort food. That's right. Uh, so I guess sharing some of those things, sharing the stories, sharing that history is also really super important as well. Helps maintain your mental well being. Helps you with talking to friends and family and building community. Is there anything else that kind of relationships that you're building through food contributes to your general healthy well being?
Yeah, you touch on a very important but also sensitive topic, because up until recently, food and eating food is a social event. By social event, I didn't mean that you go out and eat. Even eating with your partner at home or eating with your family as a kid or as a parent, when you sit around the dining table, it is a social event. You exchange stories, you comment about the food, you thank someone, you thank your mom or your dad or whoever it is that cooks the food.
Yeah.
You talk about the food, you talk about things that happens in your day. You ask question. That is a social event.
It's a coming together.
It's
Absolutely.
a coming together event up until recently, and now even when you have someone to eat the food with during dinner time, you're probably glued to your screen,
Mm.
to the TV, or if you're working in the office, you're probably eating your lunch on the desk,
Yeah.
or you're eating lunch on the go. And I do think it really messes up with our sugar balance, because what used to take, say, 20 minutes or 30 minutes to digest and consume a meal, a portion of meal, be it lunch or dinner, now happens in 12 minutes and in 8
Mm.
minutes. And that change in behavior significantly shifts the way that our body has a relationship with food.
Mm.
It reduces our, for lack of a better word, appreciation for the other aspect of the food, because we have five senses, and food should evoke sensation on all of our five senses. Sometimes we're eating in such a rush that we don't even remember the taste of the food that we just
Yeah,
swallowed.
which is such a shame. One of the things that I really appreciated when I was working in the early 2000s in startups, a lot of technology startups were super famous for having these wild offices. So the cubicle farms of the 1990s and earlier were slowly being removed, and we had this open plan office system. And it was really great for people to be social. Wasn't so great for people like me who were trying to sell things on phones, and so you had a lot of background noise. But the key to those open plan funky offices were the kitchens. They were the meeting place of the whole office, and I really feel like that having a meeting place, having somewhere to get together, and maybe share food, but it's actually more about sharing stories and reducing your stress. It's a way for you to sit down, talk to somebody, maybe meet people in parts of the organization that you've never met before or that you don't engage with, and that offload of stress and that offload of a story and sharing, I think is pretty important.
And evolutionary, in our evolutionary pathway, that is something that is so innate in Homo sapiens. Gathering around the campfire, like the fireside chats, all of those things before even you put things in writing. People have been doing that. But you touch on a really good segue to get us to our fourth point, which is we need to stop normalizing chronic stress. You mentioned that interaction and networking and getting together is one of the ways for us to offload that stress. And I do believe that for the longest time, probably starting when I was a lecturer or even when I was a PhD student, I feel that society and I was on board that train.
Mm.
We tend to wear stress, to use stress as if we're wearing a badge of honor.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the way that if you're not saying that you're busy but good, you have to say busy but good so that people don't pity you. Uh, it's almost like you're lazy. It's almost
Mm.
like you're not doing enough. Like you have to be frantic to show that you are an entrepreneur, you are a good founder, you are hustling. And I benefit from all of that things. I benefit from that culture because it pushes me uh, to achieve more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as I age, that kind of stress, I understand it even more now that it can literally age you.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
can literally wear you down. And I feel that a lot of us don't know about that. Uh, but luckily, and I'm so jealous with the generation that comes after me, uh, Gen Alpha, I think that's what they call it.
Mhm.
They are a lot more mindful when it comes to mindfulness, when it comes to dealing with stress. And I
So,
feel
so what are they doing to deal with that stress? Are they avoiding it up front, or are they taking the time to offload or to deal that with that stress in some particular way that's different?
I think they some of them they avoid it up front.
Mm.
They think that, I mean, these are also generation that, and I'm generalizing here. This is from my understanding, and from what I have read, what I have discovered through interaction with them is that they were born into the digital era, into an
Mm.
era where you don't have to own a car. You can Uber.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to go out and deal with people in restaurant. You can Uber Eats.
Yep.
You can
Yep.
order. It's not like even before ordering in means that you have to deal with someone. Now it's done through the apps. But at the same time, those I think are not the not so good aspect of it.
Mm.
But they also have the aspects where I admire and, as I said, a little bit jealous. Say, for example, the sober curious movement.
Okay.
I do believe that I didn't drink alcohol till I was 25,
Mhm.
and I've kind of made up for that lost time. But at the same time, I pride myself of being able to say no and stop alcohol for 2 months at a time.
And that's much more acceptable these days. Absolutely, with the dry July or I think we're doing dry January.
Yes, I am
Something
doing
like
dry
that. Yeah.
January.
Congratulations.
Oh, well, it's only 13 days in, Stephen. Please do not congratulate me just yet. But what I'm trying to say is that I think people are a lot more conscious when it comes to the effect of alcohol, for example. And I
Mm.
have to say that probably cost of living helps that motivation to I mean,
Yeah.
cocktail now is like $30.
That's crazy. Yeah. Um, so I guess what are the other things that we can do to reduce our chronic stress? We mentioned getting together with family and friends, but are there other things? I feel like listening to music or going to movies or doing some exercise, which we don't feel bad about, or there must be things that we can focus on uh, to add to our list of things that we're doing for 2026 for longevity.
I think people often say, and they say it with such, passion when they say that avoid things that stress you out.
Yeah.
It's so much
Yeah.
easier said than done. Because if you're a parent and your source of stress is your partner or your kid, you can't just say go away.
There are things that you have no control over. Even just driving over uh, to uh, to come and meet you today. This is Sydney, so traffic is completely unpredictable. You don't know what's going to stress you out.
Yes. So I have come to a conclusion, not really a conclusion, but at least conclusion for myself that, like you said, there are external factors that I don't have any controls over. But at the same time, I have control in terms of increasing my resilience. So one of the things that I do very good, and I've implemented this since my PhD days, is that I know when I wake up in the morning, I will give everything that I have that day to tackle and solve any issues that may arise that day. The reason why I said that and the reason why I make commitment to do that my very best on that day is because if I don't, it will impact my sleep, because then I would then think, what if I did this? What if I asked for help? What if I've done things differently? But if I've done all of my best, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, then there is nothing else that I could have done.
Yep.
And that, for me personally, almost is like giving myself a permission to switch off, because that's the reward of being on and being excited and being positive and being hardworking the whole day.
And in the moment.
In the moment.
Yeah.
So I don't like to cultivate regrets. And the main source of stress, in my opinion, is not the unpredictable it's not the unpredictability, but it's us projecting regret of what we didn't do at that time. So to help reduce my anxiety and my stress level, that's how I train my body and my brain to think. Everybody has different way of dealing with stress. Kathleen, for example, our operation manager, she journals.
Okay.
So it's almost like she unloads all of her worries and upload all of her hopes and what she aspires to do into her journaling. And instead of floating around in her head and preventing her to go to bed and have a good night's sleep, she has unloaded everything.
Before then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Marty, for example, he goes for a run. And I know Christian plays Xbox. What do you do?
Yeah, I work on another startup idea. It's which maybe that's bad for me, but I have a whole list of ideas that I've spent an hour or two on, decided that there's no market, and dropped them. And I feel like I'm ticking things off. I'm not sure if your listeners would agree with me or not, but
there are also a group of people who deal with it in the way that you just described. Maybe if I can sort of kind of synthesize it, is sometimes the way that some people deal with stress is actually, to other people, from looking from the outside into that person, is actually cultivating more stress. But for that person doing it, that actually fuels and energizes them.
And it allows me to tick things off. So there are actually two other things that I wanted to tell you as how I reduce my stress.
Okay.
And they're both super important. They're not things that I do every day. And so, the example that I just gave is a little flippant. One of the things that makes an enormous difference for me, being a technologist, I am on all of the time. I work across multiple time zones. I fly, travel a lot. I need at least a week during the year where I am disconnected from the internet. Now, that sounds really hard, and it is the first couple of times that you try to do that. You turn your phone off. You do not check your email. You don't open Slack. You don't even think about Teams or any of the other things that give people this idea that they can contact you at any time of the day or night. You actually disconnect. And then the second part of that is you need to go for a walk. Now, a lot of people really like bushwalking. It took me quite some time to get into it because I always felt that bushwalking was just walking in the bush, not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But when I'm bushwalking, and I do a lot of solo bushwalking at the moment, I catch myself about 10 minutes in not listening. It's really important, and it's such a stress relief. When you go out into nature, you're by yourself, and then you just stop, you close your eyes, and you listen. And the things that you hear, it's suddenly really noisy. There is so much going on, but they're things that we completely miss when we're just driving from one place to another, or walking from one place to another, or standing in the line waiting for that newest awesome croissant at the local patisserie.
I'll make you some
Stop.
croissant.
Awesome. But stop, close your eyes, listen. You will discover a whole new world, and it will de-stress you immediately.
I will, because I love walking, but I will take that into account, because walking now has become a meeting session with myself. So probably I need to take that. I need to practice that and try that out. That for once in a while, for a moment, we are not the center of the universe. We are not the lead, character in our own story. But perhaps we need to pay attention to what's happening around us instead of just being oblivious. Which, again, you're so good with segue, because our fifth point was community. Health is directly related and have a causal relationship with our social interaction, with how we form community.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that, I mean, as a technologist, as someone who is at the forefront of all of this new technology, probably you would agree with me that it's a little bit of an ironic situation that in the era where we are super connected, we're also disconnected.
Absolutely true. One of my very good friends who I feel connected with on a day-to-day basis, we chat every 3 or 4 days. And then he highlights just how physically disconnected we are when he posts an image of the amount of snow that fell yesterday where he is in New Hampshire in the US. And it feels like he's in the room when I'm talking to him. But then when I see his reality, and the kind of just the complete differences between him living on a farm in New Hampshire and me living in the inner west in Sydney, there's this massive gap and void. But I really feel, though, that talking about things that are of interest to both of us. Now, I don't have maple trees, so I don't create my own maple syrup. But I grow my own chilies. And so we still have this connection between things that we produce and things that we harvest, and what we do with those things. I can tell you that getting rid of a kilo worth of chilies is much easier than getting rid of 10 kilos worth of maple syrup. That's very difficult to get rid of that much maple syrup.
Well, please send it my way. I also learned that it's actually illegal to carry more than 5 pounds of maple syrup across the border from Canada to the US.
That's exactly right. That it used to be a currency, essentially.
Wow.
Very all of these things that you learn on the Dr. Vincent After Hours podcast.
Well, you missed an episode. You missed a lot of things. So I do think that I had three things that I listed under this community building and restarting, basically. The first one we've already discussed, that shared meals. I do think that I used to have dinner clubs. It's just basically mates coming together. It's a potluck situation. But people get busy. But I think that we need to be more active in terms of and proactive in terms of doing these kind of things that perhaps sound silly, but believe you me, if you actually do that, you'll find joy in it, and you're actually probably want to do it again. And number two, regular check-ins. As an ambassador of Are You Okay Every Day campaign, I do believe in this. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take. I have a general rule of thumb. If you think of someone, just drop them a hi or a hey, or I don't know, whatever it is, or like their post or like their story, because you never know how much joy that could bring a person in their day. And if it costs nothing or next to nothing, it's just 2 seconds of your time.
Yeah,
do it.
Yeah, and be consistent too is the other thing.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people reach out during particular periods of time, Christmas, New Year, birthdays. But but just take 5 minutes to reach out to a few people, send them a WhatsApp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And number three, I do also believe that we need to start having conversations without phones. I mean, to start with, perhaps if you want to ask someone something that requires an explanation, give them a call. Or if you can't meet them face to face, at least give them a call instead of texting them. Because a text can mean so many different things. It's so hard to interpret someone's emotion, their mood, their perception of what you just said, just through text. And I do think that a lot of misunderstanding can be avoided if you just talk, if people just talk.
Um, Dr. Vincent, I feel like we're nearing the end of this session. While I think we could probably go on and talk about these things for the next hour, maybe if you just like to wrap up
Yes.
what we've covered this session, and as I said, please, if you've got some feedback or if there are comments that you'd like to make, if there are some things that you would like us to cover as well in future sessions, please add to the comments. But I'll let you finish up, Dr. Vincent. Thank you.
Yes. Which again, king of segues. I have a nickname for you now because that brings us to number six, which wraps up everything. As much as we can, we just need to return to our natural rhythm. Things like movement. Our body was built to move. Human body needs to move to feel the energy, that life force, that circulation, that oxygen's being circulated to all of our organs. We need to make sure that we nourish ourselves with real food rather than manufactured food.
Yeah.
We need to sleep. We need to restore and rejuvenate our system, our nervous system, store memories, create all of this uh, organization in our brain to support our daily activities and performance. We also need to return back to our roots as a human, as a social being.
Mm.
A lot of us really remember during lockdown and COVID that how hard it is not to be able to meet someone face to face, not being able to
Yeah.
just go to someone's place. At that time, we all really valued and appreciate the fact that we can be social, right?
Mm.
Please don't forget that feeling because sometimes we recognize the value of something after that something being taken away from us. Now we can do that. Please do that.
Yeah.
And again, simple is better. Simple is king because simple and simplicity helps consistency. And when it comes to our health, perfection is not the goal, consistency is. And on that note, thank you so much for listening. And I will see you again with Stephen
Thank you.
next week on the next episode of After Hour Ask Dr. Vincent. See you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.